So, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Today, I'm at the Annex Chess Society to play my first match in almost 10 years. My opponent Salim is a 1500 ranked player with just over 2 years tournament experience. As for myself, I basically know how the pieces move. For this challenge, I want to see how much I can improve my skill at a game as studied and complicated as chess in just 30 days. Oh, no. By move 18, I've made a major blunder, and from here, it's just a slow descent into...
Let's checkmate.
Yes, it is. After mopping the floor with me in our first game, Salim was generous enough to walk me back through the game and point out some of my mistakes. His first point of advice was to imagine the board in 3 dimensions, with the center of the board representing the high ground. Whoever controls the center of the board will essentially control the game throughout the early stages. With this in mind, my first couple of moves actually went fairly well. I started out with d4 and defended it by going knight f3, bishop g5. From here, I got into trouble because I started moving my knight around when I should have been concentrating on developing my other pieces and building a solid board position. Secondly, it's important to understand the value of each piece you're playing with my major mistake in the game coming when I opted to trade my queen for a rook, a decision that was, well, bad. Chess breaks down basically into major and minor pieces, with your knight and your bishop being the minor pieces, while your 2 rooks and your queen are major pieces. Your pawns are, well, pawns, but even their value isn't distributed equally, with pawns closer to the center of the board being slightly more valuable than those towards the outside. So if you were in an opening strategy similar to, say, this, in this scenario, trading pawns might actually be slightly to black's advantage rather than white. So from here, I think my best course of action is to try and develop a solid opening game strategy, so I'm not digging myself into a hole right off the bat. For me, this will mean reading a lot of chess books, watching videos, and trying to find a style that fits with the way I feel most comfortable playing the game. Here we go. I start by reading through a collection of books I borrowed from the Annex Chess Club, as well as one I bought myself called Bobby Fischer Teaches Chess.
This young man's name is Bobby Fischer. He is 15 years old. He is the United States chess champion.
In the 1950s, Bobby Fischer was a chess prodigy. He won his first US championship at the age of 14, and a year later was named Grand Master, the youngest ever at the time to do so. Fischer's prodigy status, as well as his future success on the international stage, made him infamous in American chess circles, with his name and life providing the source material for multiple films, biopics, and documentaries. While Bobby Fischer never wrote this book, it remains the only chess book he lent his name to during his long career. Fischer was consistent in his opening game strategies, beginning nearly every match with e4, claiming it was the best by test. Since then, modern chess databases have run the numbers and figured out that d4 is actually slightly more consistent in win shares by an average of like 1.3%. Either way, I think I'll be fine embracing Fischer's approach, and I'm going to try and familiarize myself with as many opening strategies that develop from the e4 position. I test my understanding of basic chess openings against a computer. My first goal is to memorize some of the variations around the Ruy Lopez, or at least become familiar with each of them. Next, I try my hand at the Italian game to figure out what kind of positions and lines it creates. Then I went back to the Annex Chess Club to see if what I learned had any effect. So I went and played in a couple chess meetups this week, and I'm starting to realize that just diligently memorizing opening moves isn't a great way to learn the game, as a lot of my opponents opted for less traditional openings, and I made really bad judgment calls against them. I'm starting to realize it's much more important to know the reason behind the move than it is to just have the move offhand to go like, yes, this plus this equals a good board position. Also, I didn't really know what capturing a pawn en passant was, so that got a little awkward. Capturing en passant is the one time in chess where a pawn captures another pawn without landing on the square it's capturing. This can only happen after a pawn has jumped 2 spaces out of its opening position. So if the pawn on my A file moves here, this black pawn has the option to capture only on its next move in passing, or en passant. The reason for this move, I believe, is because of how valuable pass pawns become in the endgame, and you don't want to have a pass pawn just getting a clear file right to the end without having the option to capture. From here, I realize I'm going to have to significantly improve my in-game decision making, and I need to broaden my understanding of openings so I'm not getting jumped by a surprise opening strategy. I start working my way through online lessons and challenges to improve my instincts for reading the board and to help me make smarter decisions during the mid-game and end-game sections of a match. And with each new game I play, I go back afterward and evaluate the mistakes I made to see what I could have done different. So tonight is the last night of this challenge. I'm about to go inside to the Annex Chess Club to play my rematch against Salim. I really don't want to blow this one. I've had a lot of bad games this week where I blew it early with poor decisions. So I'm just going to try and stay locked in, stay focused, and maybe I'll even walk out of this with a win. In what's become known as the match of the century, Bobby Fischer competed against the Soviet Union's Boris Spassky for the World Championship. In an attempt to throw his opponent off, Fischer opted to start the game with c4, moving into the Queen's Gambit declined, a line he'd never used before in competitive play. So, in my own rematch against Salim, I did not go with that strategy, sticking with the only line I've studied and feel any confidence in playing. And I've included the whole game sped up, so there's no disguising how well I do. And that's checkmate, isn't it?
You started really well. You started actually following proper theory. With it's called the Open Sicilian, when you push trying to claim the center for you and fight for the center, and that's exactly what you have to do. And I think you've played some very good moves initially, nothing wrong with the way you opened.
Well, that's good.
Last time we played, you were jumping around with your knight everywhere. But this time you try to develop fast and get in the action very quickly, maybe try to get the initiative. We were really quite advanced in the game when you made your first serious mistake.
That was when we swapped. I wanted to swap queens, but then I wound up losing a rook in exchange for a bishop, which didn't go great.
Until that mistake, you were doing pretty fine. We were even in material, and you're getting there very fast, actually.
Thank you.
A few more games, a few more books, and you'll be ready for a competition for sure.
So I didn't win, but I played a much stronger game than I would have been capable of at the start of this challenge, and to answer what is probably the elephant in the room for a lot of you, no, a 1500 ranked player is not a chess master, not by any stretch. And I intentionally didn't set up this challenge with that goal in mind because I was advised 30 days of training just wouldn't mean anything against a player of that experience and caliber. And I did want to have at least the underdog's chance of winning in the final game. What I loved about this challenge though, and about the game of chess in general, is how beautifully simple it is, yet how infinitely complicated it becomes the moment you dedicate any serious practice or study to it. It's also a game that demands a level of focus where you can spend 30 to 40 minutes in complete silence, weighing options, processing decisions, that you almost enter a type of flow state where everything else drifts into the background and the only thing you care about is the game at hand, which is great. And I want to thank Salim and the Annex Chess Club for their help on this challenge, and I want to thank chess.com for sponsoring this video. Now this is a slightly different sponsorship partnership than we've done before, where I actually reached out to them because I was using their website every day to practice for this challenge, and I'm really glad they said yes to sponsoring us. Not only is chess.com home to millions of chess players from around the world you can compete and play against, chess.com also offers educational videos, lessons, and in-game analysis to help you develop as a player. One of the resources I've been hearing rave reviews about is Puzzle Rush, which is timed challenges that get exponentially harder the more you improve. Chess.com is a great resource to have, both if you're a starting out player as I was, or if you're a seasoned tournament player who's looking to take the next step in your game. We've included a partner link below, so not only will you get access to chess.com and all of their resources, you also help support this channel and the videos we make. And who knows, maybe we'll play a game sometime.